Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from RicoScores, and we're coming today with some big Washington Commander QB rumors, man. First of all, it's being reported by trustworthy sources that the Commanders have already turned down trade back offers. So it seems like we're going all in on quarterback, but it is lying season. We're going to dive into what this source is and what they said, of course. Also, we're going to talk about how the Commanders may potentially prefer Jayden Daniels. There's a lot going on right now. So according to sources, the Commanders are turning down any and all trade back offers from NFL teams wanting to move up and take Washington's number 2 overall pick in the 2024 NFL draft. Also, Rivera, who just got a job with ESPN, appeared on ESPN and said why the Commanders would prefer a Jayden Daniels over Drake Maye. And he's not the first. There seems to be this whole paradigm shift in thinking that Jayden Daniels is better than Drake Maye all of a sudden now. Again, could very well be lion season. Draft analysts are also saying that the Commanders may be more willing to trade up to get Caleb Williams than they are to potentially trade back, and more. So we're going to dive into all of that. But before we do, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned for all of the content. I know that I said it at every video, but I truly mean it. I have a lot of stuff in store for y'all, especially before free agency starts, which is like March 11th with the legal tampering period and things like that. I have some videos that I got to get out before then, so stay tuned for that. And then, of course, after free agency passes, we can focus a lot more of our energy and time into the whole draft situation. Free agency right now is the priority, but we'll get to the draft stuff. Film sessions for the draft prospects, more mock drafts, who the Commanders are meeting with, who they seem interested in. I'm going to keep y'all updated on all of that like I always do, but make sure y'all stay tuned. Let's go and get to this video first though. Let's get it. Alright, so the first time I saw anything about the Commanders turning down trade offers was when I saw Charlie Campbell at Draft Campbell say on his Twitter account, per sources, the Washington Commanders have been turning down trade offers for the number 2 pick. Washington is going all in on quarterback. Straight up, quick and to the point. And he also linked the actual article to his website, WalterFootball, to do like a full breakdown of what he means and what he's hearing. So apparently this was actually publicized by Kenneth Ortiz, and again, this was March 5th. He said in the article, with new general manager Adam Peters and head coach Dan Quinn taking over the Washington Commanders, the consensus view has been that the franchise would take a quarterback with the 2nd overall pick in the 2024 NFL draft. And again, like I've already explained, even if Sam Howell was proven to be a good quarterback, every new regime has every right to come in, new general manager, new head coach, new offensive coordinator, new all of that, new owner as well, because Josh Harris didn't buy the team until after the draft. And even then, Sam Howell was drafted even a year prior to that, back in the 2022 draft. But I believe that when an entirely different regime comes in, they have the right to do whatever they want to do. No matter how good the quarterback is that's already there, if they just don't view him as a franchise guy for whatever reason, if he doesn't fit what they want to do, even though it may be a dumb idea, I still feel like they have every right to make whatever decision they want to make with the quarterback position. But then in our case, even though Sam Howell showed a lot of potential in that first half of the season, he did not end the season very well, and he basically left it open for the Commanders to potentially take another quarterback. He didn't even make it that difficult of a decision. I see why a lot of people say that we should just trade back, take like an elite tackle, build around the quarterback, and then give Sam Howell 1 more year at least, and then potentially build the team so that whenever you do go get a new quarterback, if you have to, that quarterback is being placed on a team that's already built for him to win right now. So he has a good offensive line to not mess up his mechanics and to cause him to get into any bad habits and things like that. So I understand the logic, but again, Sam Howell just did not slam the door on that idea. And once you don't do that, If you don't look like Jordan Love, how he looked towards the end of last season, then the next regime is more than likely taking quarterbacks. So I wanted to go ahead and get that out the way anyway. But continuing with the report, there are a number of teams selecting after the top 3 picks that need a young starting quarterback and are interested in moving up. Those teams include the New York Giants, the Atlanta Falcons, the Minnesota Vikings, Denver Broncos, and the Las Vegas Raiders. And we've already heard the reports about the Raiders trying to trade up, being very aggressive about that. We've seen reports that the Falcons may try to do whatever they can to trade up as well. Denver Broncos just got rid of Russell Wilson and eating all of that dead cap to do it. They had to cut arguably their best player on the entire team in Justin Simmons just so they can get neutral / positive in the cap space. They didn't even want to cut him. They just kind of had to. And so now, if you're thinking about getting quarterback, you already don't have enough money to keep one of your favorite players. There's no way you're going to go out there and get like a big time veteran. So they're more than likely trying to draft the guy. I see the Denver Broncos definitely taking quarterback. It may not be the guy that they go into the draft hoping that they do get like the most. Like maybe they prefer JJ McCarthy the most, but maybe JJ McCarthy doesn't make it past one of those other teams I named. But I can definitely see them going quarterback. Either way, there's a reason that all of those teams potentially would do whatever it takes to trade up to get a guy. And at the 2024 NFL Scouting Combine, some of these teams reached out to the Commanders to start the framework for Washington to trade down and load up on future draft picks. And that was assumed. Again, like I kept saying, even before the combine started, that's where everybody is at. All NFL decision makers, GMs, maybe not every head coach, maybe not every GM, but most of them, scouts, coaches, everything. Even some owners like Josh Harris, they're all there just shaking each other's hands, rubbing elbows, just running into people randomly. Like Josh Harris or Adam Peters maybe just happened to run into like the Bears GM or whoever, or like a Raiders GM, and then now they're like, well, what's up, my name is, nice meeting you again. I mean, are you interested in potential trade? It could be something that simple, something that random and quick, and that could be like the start of something big happening. That's what the combine is so fun for. Like, I mean, of course, the draft prospects that are there, that are working out, we're getting their measurables, we're getting their testing results. That's great as well. But like I said, a lot of free agency, a lot of trade things, a lot of draft decisions are made and started at the very least at the combine. So don't be surprised there at all. But those trade offers were turned down by Adam Peters. If this is true, that's monumental, man. I mean, I already assumed that we were taking quarterback number 2 overall, but if, and I want to keep emphasizing, if this report is true, that means we're going all in on quarterback, no questions asked. I already thought that it was highly unlikely that we don't take quarterback number 2 overall, but now if this is true, it literally, you might as well just go ahead and punch it in. And then after that, the debate is whether we want Jayden Daniels or Drake Maye at that point. That's it. Or some people are acting like JJ McCarthy even has a chance. But continuing with the article, teams were told that Washington is staying at number 2, sticking with the second pick of the 2024 NFL draft signals that the Commanders are all in on taking a quarterback. Then he continues on saying the Chicago Bears are expected to take USC quarterback Caleb Williams with the first overall pick of the 2024 NFL draft. That leaves Washington likely to select between North Carolina's Drake Maye or LSU's Jayden Daniels. Some in the organization are higher on Daniels over Maye, but that is not throughout the entire team. That's very interesting. I didn't even notice that when I first pulled this article up. My whole focus was that the Commanders want to stay at number 2. I didn't even realize that he also went on to say in this report that there are some people in the organization that, I guess through whatever trustworthy sources, through somewhat confirmation in Lion season, so take all of this with a grain of salt, some people on the team do want him, but it may not necessarily be the entire team. And then he goes on to say, and the decision makers haven't settled on who they would take at number 2 if Williams is off the board. So that also, first of all, let's take the fact that basically it's Caleb Williams, and then after that, it's like, okay, we're still deliberating. But if like the draft were tomorrow, and for some reason Caleb Williams were available with the second overall pick, we would be taking Caleb Williams. That's what it seems like they're saying. But then after that, so far, as an entire organization, they don't know exactly if they're going to pick Jayden Daniels or Drake Maye yet. And I feel like that's fairly obvious. I mean, even if, say, Kliff Kingsbury prefers a Jayden Daniels, this is Adam Peters' team. And unless Kliff Kingsbury puts together the best PowerPoint to convince Adam Peters that you should take Jayden Daniels if Adam Peters prefers Drake Maye, it may not matter who Kliff Kingsbury wants. but I'm pretty sure Adam Peters is going to take Kliff Kingsbury's opinion into account. You're bringing him as an offensive coordinator. Why would you not at least want his opinion on the situation and like a good explanation why and like what you envision the offense being if you do just say, for example, prefer Jayden Daniels. But at the end of the day, if Adam Peters wants Drake Maye, he's taking Drake Maye. If Adam Peters wants Jayden Daniels, he's taking Jayden Daniels. This is his team. It's all in his control. So it doesn't matter how many people in the building prefer Jayden Daniels, even if that report is true. It's all up on Adam Peters. But again, I'm pretty sure Adam Peters is not just going to go in completely solo. He's going to take in different opinions from everybody, most notably the offensive coordinator and Kliff Kingsbury, and then we'll go from there. I'm pretty sure Lance Newmark is going to have some input as well, all of that type of stuff. But continuing on, the Commanders also are vetting Williams in case Chicago falls in love with Maye or Daniels and allows Williams to fall to the number 2 overall pick. So again, it sounds like from the Commander side of things, Caleb Williams is quarterback 1, but we're already assuming that he won't be available. So we're moving on ready to decide between like a Jayden Daniels or a Drake Maye. But if for some reason Caleb Williams is available at number 2, pretty much expect us to sprint to the podium to get him. And that's no surprise to me. But it's really interesting to see it as like a full-blown report. Again, I'm going to keep saying this. It's lying season, but it's interesting that somebody close to the NFL is reporting this like this. Then they go on to say, Washington has not had above-average starting quarterback play since Alex Smith was injured and has not had a young franchise quarterback since Kirk Cousins emerged as a good starter under Jay Gruden. Peters and Quinn are determined to end that streak and take a quarterback. And speaking to sources from other teams, they had an opinion in which quarterback would be a better fit for the Commanders offensive coordinator Kliff Kingsbury, and that is who I have the Commanders taking in my latest 2024 mock draft. So then when you go over to his mock draft, of course, he has Caleb Williams going 1st overall, and then he has Jayden Daniels going 2nd overall to the Washington Commanders. And again, his reasoning for that is because he feels like not only like on his end that Jayden Daniels would be a better fit for this offense, but he also said while talking not to the Commanders directly, so of course super take this with a big grain of salt, but he says speaking to other teams, it just seems obvious to those other teams, not the Commanders, but scouts and decision makers from other teams, that Jayden Daniels is the better fit for a Kliff Kingsbury offense, which I think he is. I've already been saying that. I feel like that's obvious. Is that enough to give him the edge over a Drake Maye? We'll see. Because what if Kliff Kingsbury is like, nah, man, I'm not going to be quarterback dependent. Give me any quarterback. I'll be all right. I'll figure it out. I'm the genius here. You know, maybe he could be that type of arrogant. But honestly, if you're asking me who's the better fit for his offense, I think it's pretty obvious that it is Jayden Daniels. And it's really interesting that according to these reports, lying season, again, that other teams feel the same way as well. And then the same source also went on Grant Paulson's show and doubled down on the report. And on Grant Paulson's show, he said, quote, teams approached them last week, but the Commanders told them that they refused to start going down that road. So when Adam Peters said at the combine that they're considering anything, trading up, trading back, whatever, we open for business. Whatever it takes to build this team the right way, we're open shop for any ideas. But apparently in actuality, in like real life, when they were at the combine, if you were a team behind them in the draft, which is all of the other 30 teams, if you weren't the Bears, they basically told you no. That's what it sounds like. Continuing with the quote from Grant Paulson's show from @DraftCampbell, they rejected the trade offers in rough parameters. Basically, like they didn't even get to the detail part of it. They just came up with a general, hey, are you willing to trade back? We may be willing to offer this and that. Just like general rough stuff. Like, and the Commanders basically turned these trades down immediately. Like early on, don't even start to talk details. Don't even get specific. Just know you're talking about trade back. If you're the Cardinals, if you're the Patriots, if you're the Falcons, if you're the Vikings, any of these teams, and you're talking about trading up to our pick, just know it's a no. I don't care what you're offering. Just know it's a no. Unless it's some ridiculous life-changing draft capital. And then the quote finishes saying, it looks like they've zeroed in on taking a quarterback at number 2 overall. But just say if all of that was not true that I just read to y'all for like the past 12 minutes, just say all of that was just a complete lie. If we did trade back, we could probably get a lot in return in draft value. Like, for example, when I did my mock draft, my trade back mock draft, just like a couple of days ago, I did a trade back with the Falcons at 8th overall. And in return, we ended up getting their 43rd overall pick, 74th, 79th, and 1/10 of this draft. And then also their 2nd round and 3rd round and 4th round of the next draft. So we came away with a big haul. So this draft wise alone, we picked 8th overall, 36th, 40th, 43rd, 67th, 74th, 79th, 101st, 103rd, 110th, 138th, 181st, and 220th. Those are 13 draft picks in one draft, y'all. And again, 1 first rounder, but 3 seconds, 4 thirds, 2 fourths, and then a 5th, a 6th, and a 7th. I mean, that is an impressive haul right there. But like I've already said, several videos, I'm going to say it again now, I prefer to stay at 2 and take a quarterback. But that is a lot of really good quality picks for a guy like Adam Peters that can go crazy. He's already shown that he can find all pros and pro bowlers no matter the round, especially the 5th round, man. I don't know what it is about that 5th round, but he loves to find elite players in that 5th round. But the more seconds, thirds, and fourths he can get, the better. But again, like I also said in my trade back mock draft from a couple of days ago, we already have 2 seconds and 2 thirds. And don't forget about the fact that if we do hit on all of these draft picks, just remember the fact that we're going to have to pay all of them in a few years. And the more picks, the better. I mean, of course, yeah, the more good players you could potentially have a chance to hit at. But say we do hit on the majority, and it would, in a dream case scenario, we hit on all of them. How are we going to pay all of those guys? You got to remember, you got to eventually, after 4 or 5 years, depending on what round you get them, you're going to have to pay these guys big money if they are as good as you hope they are when you go into the draft. You're drafting these guys because you hope they're good. You're hoping that you scouted them. You're hoping that your coaches take them and develop them and put them in the right situations to win. And if they do that as often as you hope they do, we're going to be in a lot of trouble eventually with 13 draft picks in one draft class, especially with 1 first, 3 seconds, and 4 thirds, and 2 fourths. Now, of course, that's a great problem to have. You kind of cross that bridge when you get there, but I just want to bring it to y'all attention that having as many draft picks as possible in a draft does not come with 0 consequences. It's not like it's just completely devoid of any negative potential there. There's something there that you do got to remember in the back of your head right there. But of course, I mean, hey, man, that's a good problem to have at the end of the day. If you have just so many draft picks in the same class that turn out great, you more than likely did some great things. You more than likely won some playoff games. Maybe you went to a Super Bowl. Maybe even you won one. And then that's just kind of like a problem. Yeah, we'll worry about that later. But I just wanted to bring that to people's attention. But again, I'm very big on just going ahead and taking quarterback 2nd overall. So all of that other stuff doesn't really matter to me. And hey, man, before we move on, man, shouts out to Ron Rivera, man, for getting that job at ESPN, man. Congratulations. I have nothing against him. I know I don't feel like he was necessarily the best decision maker for this team, but I have nothing against Ron Rivera. So I'm happy. I was happy to see him on ESPN, like straight up. But Ron Rivera on NFL Live said that he thinks that Jayden Daniels to Washington at number 2 overall makes the most sense. He says that the key is Kliff Kingsbury will put a premium on mobility and emphasize that quarterback at number 2 is what he thinks that they will do. Never mentioned Howell, though. Not surprising, but somewhat telling. And as far as the Howell stuff goes, that part is very interesting. That's why Kevin Sheehan pointed it out in his tweet, because you can tell that people who are currently the head coach of the Commanders at the time feel the need, that kind of feel like they have to say nice things about Sam Howell. Ron Rivera would say it when he was the head coach here. Dan Quinn is now the head coach. He feels the need to say it. But as soon as they're no longer the head coach of the Commanders, they don't feel the need to bring him up. You can tell that Ron Rivera was basically only saying positive things about Sam Howell because of PR reasons, and it was like the right thing to do. And maybe it's safe to assume that Dan Quinn is doing the same thing right now. Maybe not, but I don't know, man. I mean, it kind of looks like it. And I know he did that. He says he wants toughness in his players, and that's literally what Sam Howell is, and that's how he described Sam Howell. He said Sam Howell was tough, and again, people keep bringing up the fact that Dan Quinn did say he wanted tough players. But to describe Sam Howell as tough, I don't care how much you want toughness. To get the Jayden Daniels and describe him as game changer is a huge endorsement. Way bigger than tough. No matter how much you like tough, game changer is just a different level. Game changer may have tough included in it. Tough may not necessarily have game changer in it. Game Changer is definitely a different level. So when Dan Quinn is being nice about Sam Howell, that's probably just the same reason that Ron Rivera was being nice about Sam Howell last year. And now that he has a job with ESPN and he's no longer working for the Commanders, he's like, Sam Howell, who? Like, why am I even bringing him up? They're taking quarterback at number 2, obviously. But if Ron Rivera was still the head coach right now, he would probably still be throwing Sam Howell's name into the bucket. So just wanted to make sure I brought that to y'all attention. But I also think that it's noteworthy that he feels like the Commanders will take quarterback at number 2, just like everybody in NFL circles and plugged in with the NFL decision makers. I'm only seeing and hearing from reporters and analysts that were at the combine that, if anything, the only time I'm hearing anything about trade backs are just people that are basically fans like us. I'm not hearing anybody or seeing anybody from actual NFL circles, ex-Commanders coaches, GMs, whoever, people that are plugged in with the NFL that were at the combine, nothing like that. Anybody mentioning us potentially trading back. It seems like a foregone conclusion that we're taking quarterback at number 2. And if anything, the only trades I'm seeing the Commanders potentially taking part in from reporters and analysts that were at the combine, if anything, the only thing I'm seeing is that the Commanders are more likely to trade up for Caleb Williams than they are to trade back for any other scenario and miss out on the opportunity to take all 3 of these quarterbacks in the 2024 NFL draft class. I doubt it, man. So just go ahead and get over the fact that, hey, man, we're more than likely to take a quarterback at number 2. And if anything, maybe option B is to trade up to take quarterback at 1. But trading back, I don't think that's a very realistic option right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and try to let the fans down easily that would prefer to trade back and that would prefer to keep Sam Howell for at least another year, because it's definitely looking like there's people out there disagreeing about all kinds of stuff. Is Jayden Daniels better? Is Drake Maye better? Is Caleb Williams better? All of this type of stuff. They're having all of these sort of debates. But the one thing that all of those people unanimously agree on is that the Washington Commanders not only should take quarterback at number 2, but they will take quarterback at number 2. And I think that's very noteworthy. But then when we're talking about trading up for Caleb Williams, is that realistic? Well, the NFL Network during the combine put out a scenario where the Bears give us the first overall pick so we can take Caleb Williams, and then in return we give them our first pick from this year, of course, the second overall pick, then also one of our 3rd rounders, our 5th rounder, and then a 2025 first rounder. And so, of course, I want to ask y'all, would y'all be willing to do that? Definitely let me know in the comment section if you'd be willing to do that trade. For me, Caleb Williams is clearly quarterback 1, with Jayden Daniels as my quarterback 2, even though I do think there is a gap between Caleb Williams and everybody else, just me personally. But I still don't think that gap is wide enough for us to give up that much value for him. I would happily take Jayden Daniels at number 2 rather than give up all of that value to trade up to get Caleb Williams. First of all, there are rumors that the Bears may actually prefer a quarterback at number 1 overall that isn't Caleb Williams. We've been seeing that. And I've heard the name Drake Maye out there at times. And I'm not going to lie. If we're sitting there at number 2 overall and both Caleb Williams and Jayden Daniels are available, I might cry. Live on stream and all of that. I'm not going to lie, man. That would be a dream come true to me, man. Because you can't miss at that point, in my opinion. But I'm saying all of that to say that even though I think that's highly unlikely, there is a chance, I'm saying that it's not impossible, that maybe we don't even have to trade up to get Caleb Williams. You just never know. Also, I think it's really funny because the Bears have done something very similar before if they end up actually taking UNC quarterback Drake Maye, number 1 overall. Because they've literally done that. They took the UNC quarterback, as in Mitch Trubisky, parallel to Drake Maye right now, the guy that most people do not have as the best quarterback in the draft, and they still took that guy that most people didn't see as QB1, as in Mitch Trubisky, just like Drake Maye is in this draft, and again, UNC quarterback for both of them, instead of the more proven quarterback prospect who had the better year last season, Deshaun Watson in 2017, well, technically 2016, basically how Jayden Daniels was in 2023, and over the more naturally talented quarterback who was Pat Mahomes back in that 2017 draft versus Caleb Williams in his 2024 draft. Like, the parallels are actually really insane. They've done it before. This is the same exact organization that pulled that shocking move in 2017. But then again, honestly, to be completely realistic with y'all, if there's any team in the NFL that would never make that mistake, it would be the Chicago Bears. They've already witnessed firsthand how that did not work out for them. So they're probably like, man, we're the last team to do that again, basically. So, hey, man, I ain't mad at it, but that's just really crazy if you really think about the parallels between Drake Maye and Mitch Trubisky and with Deshaun Watson to Jayden Daniels and Pat Mahomes to Caleb Williams. It's literally that this time around. Deshaun Watson was the more day one ready, the more proven in college, like Jayden Daniels won the Heisman. Then you have Caleb Williams, who was like this year's Pat Mahomes, who was the more naturally talented, had all the tools, can do things nobody else could do, quarterback. And then you have Drake Maye, which was back then Mitch Trubisky. I don't think people really saw him as, I don't remember anybody that saw him as quarterback one. So people were shocked when the Bears took him, let alone traded up one pick with the 49ers to get him. But back to my main point, even as much as I love Caleb Williams, I see it as Caleb Williams by himself is just not enough better than a Jayden Daniels for it to be Caleb Williams over Jayden Daniels, a 3rd round pick, a 5th round pick, and next year's first. Because when you make that trade, it's not just Caleb Williams versus Jayden Daniels straight up what you're trading. You also have to think about the players that Adam Peters could have gotten with those picks that you're missing out on as well. And I've already talked about it in several videos, but Adam Peters has found all pro players in rounds 3 through 7. So him, more than any time recently, every pick matters and has serious value. Like with the previous regime, man, I would have been like, I mean, they're probably going to waste the pick anyway. They're probably going to use it on a player that's going to not end up being good anyway. But with Adam Peters being as elite as he is at finding mid-round and late-round talent, and with how confident I am in this coaching staff to get closer to developing people into their ceilings rather than their floors, these late-round draft picks have more value now than when they did with Ron Rivera and Martin Mayhew running the show. Because again, if Ron Rivera were our head coach, Martin Mayhew helping him make personnel decisions as far as who we draft and stuff like that, I would probably be okay with that trade up, because it's kind of like you're going to end up wasting those picks anyway, so why not give it to the Bears to get potentially the better quarterback? But now, you are potentially trading away, put it like this, Jayden Daniels, Fred Warner, 3rd round pick, George Kittle, 5th round pick, and then another 1st round pick to potentially get Caleb Williams when you could just stick with Drake Maye and then get potentially best case scenario, of course, like not very realistic, but those are the type of players that Adam Peters finds with those exact picks that you're giving up to basically trade for Caleb Williams. And personally, when I'm looking at the situation, I don't like that. I prefer to just stick with Jayden Daniels and get Fred Warner in the 3rd, George Kittle in the 5th, and use our 1st round pick the following year for something else. And before we get up out of here, it could very well be Lion season, like I keep saying, but apparently I'm seeing a report and a rumor that the New England Patriots are expected to trade out of the 3rd overall pick if Jayden Daniels is not there. So it seems to be like a whole big Jayden Daniels movement and narrative right now. Again, lying season, but still, because you have Chris Sims. He just came out with his quarterback ratings, and he said that Jayden Daniels would normally be quarterback one in most drafts. He's very high on him, and he just so happens to feel like that this draft class, unfortunately for Jayden Daniels, has a generational quarterback like Caleb Williams, who's arguably one of the best quarterbacks to come out of college in several years. So in any other situation, Jayden Daniels would be quarterback one, and in Chris Sims' eyes, this wouldn't even be a debate. Jayden Daniels would be the obvious pick for the Commanders number 2 overall, or even the Bears if Caleb Williams didn't exist. Then you also, and then he also mentioned in his podcast that he has Drake Maye as his quarterback 5. This is crazy. And then you have somebody that's very detailed with his quarterback breakdowns. He was on the Al Galdi podcast, I think yesterday or the night before that, and he said that Jayden Daniels is obviously QB2, and Drake Maye is actually QB4 behind JJ McCarthy. So there's just suddenly all of these people the past couple of days, ever since the combine ended, saying one way or another that Jayden Daniels is better than Drake Maye. And a lot of those people are saying that Drake Maye actually isn't even a top 3 quarterback. They would prefer a JJ McCarthy over him and things like that. So there seems to be this big shift in thinking amongst the NFL media right now. Again, it could be Lion season. We'll see. But Jayden Daniels is better than Drake Maye, and basically Jayden Daniels is the obvious pick for the Commanders. It's not even close in a lot of people's eyes that are coming out lately, which is really interesting because I like Jayden Daniels the most. Of course, I prefer Jayden Daniels, but I'm not ready to say that Drake Maye is QB4 or QB5. I don't think he's that bad. I can see why some people are apprehensive on him because he is more raw than the other 2 guys out of the top 3. But man, to have him as QB5 and QB4, and again, for this to come out of nowhere, we started this draft cycle with Drake Maye as the obvious number number 2 and Jayden Daniels gap. Like, I mean, we were seeing reports that Drake Maye is closer to Caleb Williams than Jayden Daniels is to Drake Maye. Now we're suddenly seeing the complete opposite. Jayden Daniels is closer to Caleb Williams than Drake Maye is to Jayden Daniels. I don't know what happened. I don't know what changed, but there's just this paradigm shift. And again, could very well all just be Lions season, man. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Stay tuned for all of my content on the way. Especially, it's going to be heavily free agency based. I'm super excited. This may be one of my last like draft coverage things for a little minute because again, legal tampering period starts March 11th. I'm recording this right now at 11:22 p.m. Technically only 3 days away. Things are about to kick off, and out of like a lot of predictive videos where I'm kind of projecting, okay, the Commanders may do this. This is who I want us to get. This is who I think we'll get. Those videos will literally be pointless by the time the free agency actually starts, and those guys that I predicted to come to us end up potentially going to other teams. I'm gonna look stupid. So at that point, if I don't get those videos done and out within the next couple of days, I literally might as well just go ahead and throw them away. So stay tuned because I'm about to start spamming y'all, especially with free agency content. And of course, I want to keep reminding y'all at the end of my videos, I'm trying to remember to remind y'all that when I upload videos, if you're using a mobile device, the sound may not work immediately. You may have to like wait a little while, refresh, and come back. Just to give y'all a heads up, it's usually through mobile devices where the audio isn't working immediately, so stay patient. It's not like it's anything wrong on my end. It's like a YouTube upload type of thing. So yeah, man, I really appreciate y'all. Let me know in the comment section how you feel about everything discussed in the video. Do you agree with me that it's probably Lions season? But do you also feel like me where you hope this is true? Everything I said today sounds great to me. Jayden Daniels number 2 overall. We're not trading back. Jayden Daniels over Drake Maye, perfectly fine in my book, to be honest with me. So let me know how you feel about all of that in the comment section. I'm about to get back to my undid unluck. I'll catch y'all later. I'm out.